I'm Allison. I'm a psychic medium and a farmer. Today's day 14 of milking this old girl on TikTok. Today we're going to talk about a theory that I have. I'm working on it and I would love to hear what you think about it. And I call it front-loaded and back-loaded journeys that our souls are going through life. I think it's important to know I don't plan what I talk about each morning. Sometimes I have a rough idea of I could talk about this when I go to bed at night. But when I check comments in the morning before I go out to milk, if I see something that is like a question that I could answer that would benefit everyone or the majority of people, that's what I talk about today. So that's what happened this morning. I got this comment on I think a 5 video about the law of attraction. In that video, I talk about some unsavory things that happened to me when I was a child, very, very little, from like 2 to 3 years old. I can't talk about it now because I'm not talking about it when my energy is smushing and mushing with cricket. I also don't want to go to TikTok jail. But there's enough details in that video that you can connect the dots to some of the things that I experienced. That's where this comment comes in. And it's a question I get a lot, and it's a question I asked myself for about 38 years, rightfully so. And if I had a nickel for every time I've heard in those last 37 years, everything happens for a reason, I'd have a lot more than 2 cows. That's not enough for me. It doesn't cut the mustard. That answer does not satiate my logical mind, and I'm sure it doesn't satiate yours either. So this is one of the first questions I asked Source once I realized that communication between us and whoever we're talking with, or whatever we're talking with, is always a two-way street. So I said, hey, Source, it's not that I don't believe that everything happens for a reason. I do believe it, but I need more. Can you please provide some clarity so that I can fully, wholeheartedly, whole body, whole whatever, understand why this happened to me and other people? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen to young people? Why do bad things happen to old people? Why can't it just be all good? So the terms that I use are front-loaded and back-loaded. So each soul comes down to earth and grabs a meat suit and zips up to have experiences, to learn lessons. Many people call our human experience going to earth school. So we could talk about it in that sort of way too. So when our souls are here to learn, let me ask you a question. Do you learn things better when you get everything right and correct and everything is effortless? Or do you learn better when you flub up, screw up, make some mistakes, and you have to fix it, those mistakes, persevere, make corrections, expand your perspective? Which one teaches you more? The easy peasy one or the lemon squeezy one? So, spoiler alert, we're all going to go through the ish at some point in our life. And it doesn't matter how bad or how severe or how sad, so on, etc., someone's ish is compared to yours. This is not a competition. Whatever your 100% is in this human experience, in this lifetime, that's your 100%. We all talk about wanting to take away someone's pain and take away incidents, especially when it happens when we're young, when it's an accident, when there is so much potential in that person's life. But we're not in charge of that. We're not in control of that. And for all intents and purposes, that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to take lessons away from other people. And I know how yucky that feels when we talk about all the really unsavory stuff that goes on in our lives. I would consider myself a front-loaded soul. For the first 37-ish years of life, I had some really, really, really not cool stuff happen to me. Some of it was completely out of my control because I was only a little bitty tiny kid. Some of it started to become in my control when I was older and I was able to use this beautiful frontal lobe and make choices. And those choices caused a lot of unsavory things too. But at the end of the day, mix it all up together, the beginning of my life was, if that's how I choose to look at it. But I decided to turn it around, and I talk more about it in video 5, Law of Attraction, so I'm not going to repeat myself here. But when I turned myself around, that ended my front-loaded chapter aspect, mile marker, you are no longer being front loaded. And now I can experience the joys of life regardless of what happened to me prior. I enjoy life so much right now. Just being a little simple lady, milking a cow on a farm and making bread and knitting all my hats, because I know what life can be and what life was for me. And so the simple pleasures of life are for me now, and that's all I need. On the other side of the coin, we've got a lot of folks that are backloaded, and you guessed it, had a great childhood, upbringing, teen years, adulthood, but then all of a sudden, wham, at some point in their adult life. And it just seems like they can't catch a break. That's an absolute bummer too. I feel like being backloaded would be harder than front-loaded. There's a third group where it's just kind of like even keeled throughout their whole life. I'm not saying it's uneventful, but it's not a front-loaded or a back-loaded. Everything's just sprinkled evenly and dispersed throughout their lifetime. I kind of feel like this is reserved for the newer souls so they can just get acquainted with how Earth School and this human experience works. Like that's level 100 in college, which is called the evenly dispersed group. Front-loaded souls and back-loaded souls both have extremely important and valuable lessons to learn. And they're very similar, but they're also very different. The ways that we're similar, we both have to remember with a capital R that we do have the ability to experience joy even in severe hardships, loss, and grief. As front-loaders, we have the challenge that once the front-loading ends and the joy and the beauty of life is now more available to us, we struggle, at least I personally did, to accept the fact that things could get better and stay better without crashing and burning to the ground. And as backloaders, I feel for you guys because you're having this beautiful, enjoyable, joyful experience in life, and then you get handed this big lesson, this big stack of books, and you are called to remember the joy and the love and the compassion that you experienced prior in life to get you through the rest of the really bumpy road up ahead. It's tough for everybody. This is not a contest. Nobody wins, except for that we all win the experience of understanding life a little bit more. Front loaders and back loaders can work together to help remember and encourage and cheer on. I remember what that felt like. That was really tough. Do you remember what joy was like? Bring back that joy in your life. Hold on to it dearly. That's what we need to keep driving this meat suit through life in a way that we can keep learning and not just shut down. Again, this is just a working theory. I don't have it all fleshed out. I'm also not the only one that thinks about these things. If you have any terminology that you use or any thoughts or ideas to add to this, obviously let me know. This is a group. I love the conversation that is happening in comments. See you on day 15 when we're going to talk a little bit more about this via soul contracts and soul groups. Later.